Welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Peer-to-Peer Sessions, planning strategies for in-person, online meetings, small and large events with Paula Robinson Deare. My name is Hendrik Hernandez Resto. I am the creative specialist for New Bedford Creative. Thank you for joining us today. Before I go any further, please enter your first and last name in the chat along with your email for our records. Thank you. The peer-to-peer series is geared to enrich, educate, and connect creatives within our community. New Bedford is the home of artists, creatives, change makers, designers, entrepreneurs, and community enthusiasts. The peer-to-peer sessions embrace the pulse that makes New Bedford so unique, while also expanding our knowledge and connections. New Bedford Creative offers many opportunities for artists and cultural organizations. Join our creative directory, apply for one of our grants or call for arts, list your event on our calendar, all for free at our website, newbedfordcreative.org. Peer-to-peer sessions is supported in part by the City of New Bedford through its American Rescue Plan Award and Arts, Culture, and Tourism Fund, facilitated by New Bedford Creative at the New Bedford Economic Development Council. We would like to thank Mayor John Mitchell and his administration and the entire New Bedford City Council for their continued support of the creative sector. This is just one component of a broader initiative to boost arts-based economic development and help the creative sector recover from the pandemic. Before I introduce our presenter, I want to go over the format for this session. Once I'm done, I will pass it over to Paula. Once Paula is finished, we will open up for Q&A. I will review the questions in the chat first, and then we will continue with the Q&A live. We will have about 20 minutes for questions so we can wrap up on time by 2 p.m. Just so everyone is aware, this session will be recorded. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat so we don't miss them when we open up for Q&A. Most sessions throughout the series have been recorded and can be found on our YouTube channel at New Bedford Creative in the following week. I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Paula Robinson Deare, who will teach us what she knows about planning strategies for these in-person, online meetings, and small and large events. I'll pass it over to Paula now so she can share more details of who she is and what she will present for us today. I'm muting myself now. Paula, go for it.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I have an extensive background in print, radio, and television media, and as part of that, I had to do a lot of planning. So I'm going to talk about what I learned through those experiences in the slide presentation. So I'm using examples from those experiences. All righty, so I can do share screen and that. Yes. Yes. Is that the right one? I clicked the wrong. Yes.
That's right.
It's the right one? Okay, so let me start my presentation here. It's not. All right, there we go.
There you go. We can see it clearly now.
Very clear. All righty. So this is planning strategies for meetings and events. All right, and it's about understanding what vision, research, timing, collaboration, and outreach is and what it takes to do this kind of planning. So one of the first events I ever did independently was during a thunderstorm for the Roxbury Boys and Girls Club. So what happened was I had approached Fox. I used to work for Fox Broadcasting as director of public relations. They were going through a corporate buyout with Rupert Murdoch bought the station back, and they were basically getting rid of everybody at the top. And the people at the top were the people who bought me in, and I was sort of in that lineup, but they hadn't hired new people yet, so they sort of had me hanging on. And so what I did was I decided to hang on for as long as it was beneficial, and then it started to get detrimental. I took my 401k and started a nonprofit. Well, what what petrified me was I couldn't get anybody to understand, one, what I was doing, and just trying to get that first project off the ground. And but I was determined, and I figured, and I knew that the work that I was doing was necessary. So I made an appointment with the Roxbury Boys and Girls Club. I'm Bostonian initially, and they postponed me 3 times for 6 months at a time because they were going through changeovers. And when I finally met with the president, Frances Mosley, at the time she was president of all the Boys and Girls Clubs of Boston, she said, I have a group of funders coming, and if you can set up a presentation for them, I'm sure they'll be interested and we can move on from there. So I got really excited. The day of the event, this thunderstorm was so, I mean, lightning like crazy, flashes and torrential rains. And it was about this time of the year. Um, and I was deciding, should I go? Should I go? Do you think they canceled it? Maybe not. I'm going to go. So I decided that I would get soaking wet and show up. And as a matter of fact, there was almost nobody at the Boys and Girls Club when I got there. And get coffee and everything, set up the presentation. And I was just going to wait until 10 o'clock and see if anybody came. I was going to wait until noon just in case. And it was myself and the maintenance guy initially. And a busload of funding officers came with Francis, and they were soaking wet. So we gave them, they warmed them up with coffee, tea. They weren't interested in any kind of excuses. When they showed up, I knew I had done the right thing. And so I basically did the presentation for them on what I was doing, and that sort of set the trajectory for the next 30 years. So and these are some of the things that I found possible. On the left is me getting set up, and on the right is the some of the people that I was presenting with and for. So you want to make what Frances did for me was she made me responsible. I was the one that was motivated to do a presentation for the funders, on this particular day, and she made me the motivated person. She made me the responsible person. If I wasn't as motivated as I was, it would have been a real disaster for her. That was one. So in spite of being nervous and everything, I realized that the first thing I needed to do was to provide them an overview because they were all from out of town. What's going on, where it's happening, and the stats. And in this case, we're setting up a series of computer technology centers for workforce development training and teaching young people what workforce development training was. Why it's, I had to show them stats and so on, why it's important for the folks who are listening. In this case, the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, as a national group, were trying to look at what some of the programming is that they need to be not only watching, but funding and evaluating to be able to help constituents whose parents were being laid off across the country. And those layoffs were coming as a result of the technology taking over jobs. So what's affecting folks, how and what the participants can do. And so I use the Boys and Girls Club as a demonstration project. In the background, you can see the computers. They had these old computers that weren't any good at all, and for job readiness training. And being able to demonstrate what the new technology was going to look like, how it would not only impact the youth, but parents could come in and learn with the kids. So that was part of laying out the goals and objectives. Some of the strategies that we did not for kids. The oldest range of their youth was about 18. And so what I looked at, not so much workforce development, although that is what I looked at, but we looked at entrepreneurship. and what that meant. And there was a wider range of things that could be taught with entrepreneurship, including word access, Excel, and so on, teaching them how to run their own businesses. And that actually ended up doing very well. Who can assist with funding, supportive partnerships we went after, and the progress that was being made. So in this case, there were 3 technology centers in Boston that had been a part of the grant that I had gone after, which was Timothy Smith. It was a gentleman that had passed away 100 years prior and left his estate to the city of Boston for the um, economic development of the people of the city of Roxbury. And so a couple of those grants had been given out, and the grant that I was going after was also um, for the same thing. All righty. So planning strategies to engage. These are 3 examples. So on the left is Bristol Community College, and the center is Mission 180, nonprofit organization out of Boston. And then on the right, that's me before I cut off all my hair in the brown sweater. And then computer lab that I had set up at Roxbury Community College. So, and this is just an example. Not every time at bat is a grand slam. So sometimes you take small steps. What a meeting organizers new to you need to show up at your events. What do they need? How much of what they need can you automate to free up people and to make things easier for them? What live information and events can you provide? What online help cues, corresponding cross-promotional information and merchandise, and what response information do you need from constituents, surveys, polls, and so on. So what, in the case of these 3 events, on the left, I was setting up I made notes just in case. I had basically set up to meet with professors and students as a recruitment program for an access program that we were running. In the center, Mission 180, they were looking at 180-degree turnaround of brownfields and other issues that were happening in the neighborhood. And those are neighborhood leaders at the desks. And we're talking about what some of the things are that can be used for change, motivational factors, what the issues are, and how those issues can be brought to solutions. And then on the right, this lab was a part of the grant funding with the Timothy Smith sites, and the idea was to train the trainers. And so this is sort of the opening, one of the first couple of weeks after we had opened it, because initially it was flip desks with the rubber chairs. And this model is based on my experience at MIT. So the idea was to begin to bring in leaders and professionals from around the world online and on screen, and to be able to create videos, to be able to upgrade the skills in the community of Roxbury. So we ended up with a few things happening. I not only got invited to set up a lab for Springfield College, I also got invited to the National Science Foundation and to the Massachusetts Teachers Association and to the New England Board of Higher Education. All of these organizations have reached the same point where everybody was needing technology, and they all needed to learn how to use it, and they needed to understand how to do distance learning and teaching. So the same process that I set up for the meeting organizers had to be set up for different types of groups, the Massachusetts Teachers, New England Board of Higher Ed, and so on. For stand down, coordinating 180, let's see, what do I got here? I'm looking at 2 different things. So this was an amazing event, amazing opportunity. 80 organizations, 200 volunteers. I would say with large events, this was statewide. So one of the things a year after graduating from MIT, I wanted to learn, okay, what skills did I have? I had worked in radio, I had worked in television, I had worked in print. Did I have enough public relations skills to organize a statewide event effectively for an important for homeless veterans? But this was an important benchmark. The statistics were showing that a third of the homeless were veterans. And so veterans were supposed to be coming out of the military with the kind of benefits and some housing and a number of commitments that were made before they went in. So why were they ending up homeless? So and how do we begin to address those issues? Well, another thing was happening. The homeless vets were not going to the social service organizations to get the services that they needed. So a number of the federal, city, and state organizations were under fire because they didn't know how to outreach people who were homeless. And it turns out people who were homeless had gone to try to get services, but they didn't like the way that they were treated. So this gentleman out of San Diego created the first standout. Ours was like the third. In Massachusetts is still going on. And to set up an encampment, a military encampment, just the way they do in the military, to provide the services and to have these homeless guys come out of the field, come out of the streets, come into the encampment and get service for whatever their needs were. And to make this happen, what I had to learn how to do, well, one, it was such a huge event. As I contacted the different organizations, they jumped on board because they loved the idea, and it gave them the opportunities to do what they knew how to do. And they were connecting me to other people. The other thing that happened was we ended up with 80 organizations total. Everybody knew somebody. And the only way that I could make this work was just to let them do what they knew how to do. And that was big, because there's no way that I could micromanage all of these professionals, particularly the medical doctors that set up the tents. And we got introduced to the governor's office. Some of the folks on the team, they had access to the governor's office, and the governor provided the tents and the water buffaloes, which is bringing water, but the National Guard to guard all of the things that were left at the encampment overnight while the event was happening. So we connected, and so how do we get the veterans to come? That was the big deal. All right. It was really simple. We decided that we were going to have to go visit every shelter across the state. So program director Ron Armstead, Walter Long, who was his second in command, was a great telephone guy. The two of them rented a van, and we went to every veteran shelter across the state over a period of several months and held small lectures, talked to the directors, found out that homeless people need half flyers. They didn't want full flyers. We couldn't advertise on television. Homeless don't watch television. They needed to, but they did listen to transistor radio. We found a number of different kinds of things that we had to do. We also had to do outdoor advertising on billboards, buses, trains, inside trains, and that ended up very well. So we had 600, I think it was 603 veterans the first year. So we built the bridges with relatable key questions, even visiting the homeless vets across the country. We talked about how this affects participants. We let them know that if they come, they'll get medical services, eyeglasses. The Registry of Motor Vehicles was willing to provide their driver's licenses and their ID cards, depending on whether or not they had to go to court. If they had to go to court, they got ID cards. But if the trouble that they had gotten into with like loitering was dismissible, then they got dismissed and they gave them their driver's licenses back, which was really a big deal in terms of people needing to get jobs. And then we let the medical team who were doing the eye care, et cetera, and so on, just do their thing. And the housing team do their thing. Whatever they needed, we gave them a tent, let them set up and let them run it. And there was some tensions built along the way about what women should be doing and what men should be doing and what people who don't have any experience in the military like myself, although my father, my brother, and my son were all military, we're doing, but I learned that in the end, if you basically just let people do what they know how to do and let them get through whatever it is that they're dealing with, and just put your best foot forward to treat people the way that you want to be treated, that you can make amazing things happen. So those were the first two were in-person meetings, and then we're looking at globally how the web is changing. Right now, 5.8 billion people are online. That's close to everybody in terms of it's 3/4 of the world's population. Okay, so the web population is the size of India, China, and the US combined. And these are some of the stats. All right. There's a whole listing of stats on Wikipedia, the Wikipedia site, as well as the World Wide Web site, and there's 3 other sites that also do global postings. So when you look at your consumers, in the case of the 2 projects that I shared, one, my consumers were at 2-part. It was the organizations that were servicing the youth that I was trying to set up the computer lab with, but also it was the funders. The funders needed to know whether or not it was fundable. In the second case, the consumers were in part the homeless vets. They were the sort of the reason that everybody get together. But the people that I had to negotiate with to make that event happen were the 120 folks that 200 volunteers. 200 volunteers, 120 of them were veterans administration people. And then, so what does that begin to look like? In the case of most of the most artists, the consumers are your direct consumers, because right now we're all small businesses. I've scaled down, scaled back, and I'm retired, but working, as you can see. So you're looking at basic consumer needs: food, shelter, clothing. The global population has grown, but how is that impacting what it is that your consumers need? And then, are your consumers just locally here in New Bedford? Are they in Rhode Island, the New England region? Are they nationally? What consumer market are you looking at, and how do you expect that to grow? If you are selling something that is very small and unique, and I've used this before, carrot soup. If you're selling carrot soup, you might get 30 customers in New Bedford. That's not going to be enough to keep your business going. So if you want to expand your consumer market, you might get another 30 in each of the New England cities and towns. And then as you go across the country, you pick up 40, 50 in every city and state. And then as you go around the world, you're now making enough money to support yourself selling carrot soup. So you want to plan strategies for web sales, and this is not overnight. You want to put together a 3-year, 5-year plan, 1 year, 3-year, 5-year plan, and I go as far as saying a 30-year plan. We covered that in the last webinar. Okay, so in the global education career map, Americans are in need of digital literacy, not just to keep up with changing jobs, but for the future economic development of our communities. So what can you offer that helps to meet this consumer need or any of those above? Okay, so web meetings. These are one of the ways that we can address meeting needs. There's a universal serendipity that happened in the horrors of COVID, forced people to master basic use of the web. So the web was originally designed to keep communications open during war, but transformed by scientists needing global collaboration. All right. The scientists needed to access libraries and government institutions, and they need to sort of meet and network with each other because they were finding things happening around the world and they wanted to share what they were learning. So now monitored for ease of use by the World Web Consortium, the name is W3C now. I think it should have been WC3 because it's just easier to say, but I didn't name it. But anyway, the web is neither owned nor controlled by any one person, group, or company, thank goodness. So you want to look at, when you do web meetings, purpose, public-private meetings, and what way can it be used to develop projects and manage data? Are there courses to be developed and so on? Who is going to write and approve the information to be uploaded? If when and how software applications can be organized, and will there be workshops to train presenters or facilitators, which are people who help other people use the site. All right, and so this I'm not going to spend a lot of time with because you really need to read it. And these slides are going to be going out to everybody. But what I did on the left was sort of create a detail folder. And this basically has been a plan that has taken me 10 years to figure out. All right, yeah, it seems, this is a 2-page document. So on the left, file cabinets with folders. So in your folders, you can put other folders. So the idea is detailing folders with the kinds of ways that you can set up your computer as a web office, like an operations center, at least a section of it. So what I've done on my computer is I've set up an operations center, and in that operations center are only things that deal directly with the company. My family stuff is in a family folder, and I got a lot of family. Okay, but the and so forth. Shopping is another stuff, etc., and so on. But your operations center needs to be in your operations file cabinet and organized in a way that you can get to the things that you can share with others and partners that allow you to move your company forward. And so this is the last of sort of the operations ideas. And these are recommendations. I'm sure when you read these, based on what kind of work you do with your own company, you'll come up with other ideas for what needs to go in your operations folder. So then you also want an events folder, and you want to plan and collect materials for your events. And these are the kinds of things that would go into your events folder. And what's important about these things is as you move through, I'm reaching for my notes. As you move through your operations and the other kinds of business activities that you have going on, you're going to want to do things like create loyalty incentives, improve programs. You want to turn good sales into, maybe you can turn sales into consultants. What kind of assets can you trade with other people who are doing business similar to yours? What online orientation information streams should they see first? What should you be sharing? These are all preliminary planning things that go into setting up your operations center before, during, and after web meetings. And like I said, this isn't instantaneous stuff. So, and again, you want to take the time to put the responsibility in the hands of those who need it most. Also, what are the use of any of the folders that you're doing as you think about it? Can you do newsletters? Should information go out in an events calendar? What tracking information is necessary? What group policies need to be put into place for web space management? Will group meetings take place online, and how do you develop these ideas or create the venues for that? What does that begin to look like? And will you need constituent feedback or track complaints to determine the quality of your services? So with this, it takes me back to, I'm taking you back to my experience at Fox. Okay, so I joined Fox to learn how does a TV station share shows and advertising all across the country if they're in Fox's case, they were located in Dedham. How do they do that? So at the time I was there, the web was copper wire, the screens were green, and the phone line was connected to the internet through an old-fashioned telephone line. Auto dial fax machines were being used, which could dial 100 plus numbers, and conferences were done on a conference speakerphone, which was basically a round speaker in the middle of the table where everybody listened and or talked. So for each meeting, the agenda got faxed to everybody that was to be in the meeting, and that includes Fox's, it was 80 owner operated and 120 affiliates. All of them were in the meeting. So faxes got sent to all 200 people. And then these packages, Federal Express was the dominant thing they knew could guarantee delivery. All the packages were sent out by Federal Express with a month's worth of programming, month and a half's worth of programming, depending on, because 5 weeks often sway the way the months work. So at the time, each meeting was faxed the logistics, and each station joined with as listeners. There was only one speaker, everybody else was listening. They basically went through the package and set up everything that was going to happen. And so the person speaking went through the programming package, and then coordinated a uniform series of advertising, showtimes, promotional campaigns for everybody across the station based on their time zones. So that way, all the advertising and all the popular TV shows, they were aired at the same time. So even though they were all individuals, they all basically met to create a uniform look. That was the biggest thing that I learned, and that was a really big deal. So hopefully that helps. Now, this was my first international meeting. I'm so proud of Professor David Coleman. So David was getting ready to go to China. He had a fellowship to go to China, and it was great. We decided to ask him if we could use this as a learning opportunity. So he had a laptop, a computer, and camera, and we asked him if we could check his equipment to make sure that we could use it, and he got an international phone. So he was a sociology professor at Roxbury Community College, and we asked him as part of his fellowship if he would conduct a class from China with his students while he was in China. So we wanted to test our systems to see if we could do an international class, and that's me in the back trying to work on the configurations. So he agreed, which was much to our delight because it didn't cost us anything. So David's students were given the assignment to attend classes in the lab for a week and research the places David was traveling to. Each student was to come up with 1 or 2 questions for David, whatever they wanted to know. We gathered the questions and emailed them to him so he wouldn't have 20 sheets of paper, everything would be on 1 sheet, and that he could prepare for the meeting day. Okay, so now this was during a time, what worked was everything got set up, the class worked beautifully, the kids got excited. We had plenty of workstations in the lab, and the students spent 4 days researching all the places that David went. And David emailed the photos from the trip to me, which I put into a slide presentation that we were going to show on the meeting day. So what didn't work? China's 12 hours away. David was exhausted at the end. It was like the 5th day of the trip. He was exhausted. They had been everywhere. And he had to meet at midnight in order for us to be able to see the meeting at noon. At the time, AOL was the best that the country had to offer. And the busiest time for AOL, we didn't know, was at noon. And so the internet crashed. There was no screen sharing. There was no video conferencing. So what saved us was we had a copper line. David called live. We had one of those speaker phones that I was talking about from Fox, because that worked for Fox. So that just became one of the, I have one now that becomes my backup plan. And David led by answering the students' questions that I had mailed to him, which engaged the students right away, even though they couldn't see him. His PowerPoint was up as he talked through the photos. I matched the photos to the discussion, and David had his class evaluate the experience in an essay to be delivered upon his return. So having plan A, B, and C, particularly if you're in a long distance meeting and you're not sure, you're reliant on everybody else's technology, but you want to make sure that you have everything in place for any kind of A didn't work, B didn't work, you go to C. Okay. All right. All right. So this is a case. All right. So in this case, I was at MIT 3 times and 2 fellowships. The second fellowship is on the left. And then MIT Sloan, that's me in the pink on the right, among all of the people. Professor Arnold Hacks, who has since passed away, fantastic person. Mel King, who I was there with, is also gone. But so several classes of the MIT students and in planning fellows under Mel King and the class of MIT Sloan wanted to stay in touch. They were separately, just separate incidents. Mel had taught at MIT for 25 years, so all 25 years of fellows wanted to stay in touch. In the case of Sloan, these were executives from all over the world. I mean, everybody there had money but me. I got Paul sent me because we had sold property, and he made sure that was able to continue my research by making sure that I could do this executive education certificate in strategy and innovation, global strategy and innovation. So the sentiment was met, for everybody to continue with meeting with ideas and discussions and possibilities, and lots of excitement. It was a great idea and absolutely possible, but each effort failed. Unrelated. In both cases, there was no funding source to carry the costs of implementation. Both cases, no staff or organizing body. The skilled person, who happened to be me, could not afford to volunteer. There was no state of anything that was ready, and there was no support system to make it happen. So in both cases, the idea was just a great idea that floated off into the sky. In order to make things happen, and to avoid these kinds of situations, excuse me. My father used to do this. He was a musician. Every time I wipe my face with a face cloth, I think of him. Okay, so how could your idea be funded? What would your team do, and what are the necessary assignments or tasks that need to be put into place? So where would said work take place? What's ready and what needs to be put into place? What kind of support system does the person who's actually doing the implementation need? Person or persons? What kind of information is important to the group? In the case of the fellows, they just basically wanted to keep up with each other and share how their fellowship projects were moving along in the different countries that they were living in. And with the Sloan execs, they basically wanted to stay in touch with each other just to talk about growth and development, and to share ideas with how things were taking place, because all of us were interested in finding out more on global strategy and innovation implementation on different levels across a wide variety of fields. classes, members, and managers, what do they need to share resources? Do you need an intranet, which is a private web service, or an extranet, which is basically the web? What paper information would be much easier if it was digital? What applications need to be used in a data management system? And what rooms would link, what sites would link, and do you need to share? Some of this can be done on LinkedIn. With the Sloan Fellows, we started setting it up on LinkedIn, but again, the time, the energy, and the effort wasn't put together. So this is a global home base, high-speed network, universities and libraries. This is what we have at our fingertips. And the idea is for you to begin to think about it as virtual real estate. So the internet is, it's real estate. Both have property that can be built on, both have buildings with an infrastructure and framework within their servers where you can set up offices, and both allow you to welcome people to your front door through your address. Both allow you to share people around rooms, provide privacy to train, share, and entertain. Both allow you to set up these office spaces and allow you to house important work. And so today's tools and resources can save you a bundle. Imagine trying to do global years ago. You would have to go to the different countries and meet with the different people, or they would have to come to you. The internet, as you know, saves tons of funds. And so I made it through with 10 minutes left. Are there any questions? Should I come off of the stop share? Are there any questions?
Let me take a look in the chat really quick.
Yeah, I think we had one person who wanted to ask a question. I haven't seen them ask it yet. If you want to go ahead and type it in the chat, feel free to do that. Or you can come off mute and ask it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Either way is cool.
Said, hi, I'm a musician and
searching for funding.
oh, okay. So I have your email because I think we were communicating earlier. Oh, from Armenia. Okay. I can take care of this off screen. So I'll reach out because I have this person's email and can address that there.
Okay, did folks find the presentation helpful, relatable? It's always difficult when you put yourself out there and you ask people, you're trying to, give as much information as you can about your experiences. And then you put it all out there and you look at it and you go, I don't know if I connected the dots in a way that allows them to relate or to bring their own experiences. So I always have that question afterwards, if I'm allowed to ask.
Yes.
Okay. So if there are no questions, then what I want to do is I want to go back to screen sharing for a minute.
Delnor has her hand up.
Oh, there we go.
Oh.
That just happened. I didn't even see that.
I was supposed to raise my hand or put it in the chat, but I didn't want to throw it in the chat. So I figured I would just throw my hand up really fast if that's.
Excellent.
So my name is Delana, and I know what it's like to do a presentation and then stare at a room of blank faces. So I just wanted to throw my hand up and perhaps offer some feedback to the question you just asked. I really enjoyed the presentation. I am not sure that I found it very relatable, but what I really did appreciate was hearing about your experiences and your background. I know that for the right person and the right audience, that would have been really great. I enjoyed hearing you talk about, I think it was, I'm going to get it a little wrong, but the tomato soup analogy about like offering a different kind of tomatoes, like, that kind of stuff I really valued. I'm on the board of directors for a homeless network. So like I appreciated the veterans conversation. So there was a lot of really, really great parts of your presentation. I enjoyed it very much. As far as I am a dance teacher, so my arts are like a performing art. So I'm not sure how connected I was on the topic, but I really appreciated your presentation style and your background. I would have loved to have heard more about, you have a lot of great background that I would have liked to have heard about. So figured I would offer some feedback since nobody else was. So thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you, Delana. Can I ask, I like the spelling of your name. I actually know a Delana spelled totally differently.
Oh, I was gonna say, no way, it's my spelling.
I love it. As a dance performer, do you teach?
I do.
Okay, so and so between the teaching and the if you go back through and look at the rooms in your slides, and the slide when I share, and you go back through, you might find relatable information as you think about setting up your classroom for teaching, where people can go back over and different ways that they may be able to use it and give feedback. Also, if you decide to create sort of instruction manuals, and or if you are doing performances and recording those and setting those up in a classroom setting, and then promoting that classroom using some of the methods that I had talked about. Those may be.
I do all of those things and they are all wonderful. It's just, for me, it's just a really highly competitive field. I'm sure a lot of us, you know what I mean? We all, I'm sure, can, have experience with that, but it's, there's 27 dance studios in a very small geographic area. So it's a difficult, it's a hard, but yes, we do the videos and we, post on all the stuff and we provide the, the different lectures, and I have the handbooks and this, all that. So, but thank you for that.
So maybe you're starting to look at using the tomato or carrot soup.
Oh, that's what it was.
Carrot soup.
Carrot soup. Yes, yes.
Moving into other region, moving
Right.
into neighborhoods, outside of the region, it might be time for you to grow in that direction, or at least consider.
What I heard, what I heard from your carrot soup analogy was, like, and I don't mean to hijack the conversation. I certainly hope I'm not doing that, but the carrot soup was, there's not a lot of, everybody says it has this, you said it with the carrot soup thing, but nobody has Mommy and Me early 8. So it's like maybe not necessarily reaching out geographically, but to a demographic that has not yet really been tapped into. So that's what I heard from the carrot soup, is being more creative in the approach to different demographic, like ages, or, we don't have a lot of adult classes, and so there's different ways. So yes, that's exactly it right there. That was what I got from the workshop. So thank you for that. And I'll be quiet now.
No, you don't have to be. This is what this part of the session is for, us to have this open discussion, the Q&A. So definitely, yeah, this is a good thing.
I'm moving through trying to get better at leaving time at the end to have discussion.
No, this is fantastic. This was a good amount of time. This is exactly what we wanted, because then it doesn't, people don't feel so pressured to have to rush their questions or limit them or simplify them.
Yeah.
Any more questions from anyone?
Shakira, will her slides be available for future reference?
Absolutely. They'll be available right after the class. Just going to go back to the presentation. If you go to eworkstyle.org, all right, what I've done is, let me go to eworkstyle.org, or the presentations on the slide. All 6 of the classes are here. And so this one is number 5, planning strategies. And so I'll have the new slides up this afternoon. But all of the previous slides, Power Voice, the first, second, and third are here. And what I've tried to do is set up the webinars that Hendrik provides the link to here. So when you receive the slides, you'll be able to follow that directly as well. Whoops. How did I? Did I close everybody out? No, there I am. All right. Okay, that's it. Oops.
Still have a minute or so left. So if anybody really wants to reach out, let's look in the chat one more time. Does not appear like there's anything left there. No, just in case there's any shy people who are second guessing it or second thinking it, now is your chance to ask your questions while we have Paula here. Okay.
All right.
I want to thank you all for your time this afternoon. This was a great session. I'd also like to thank Paula Robinson Deare once again for their hard work. Also, I'd like to thank our funder, the City of New Bedford, for making this possible. Please be sure to visit our website, newbedfordcreative.org, and join our free creative directory. This is the list we use to promote on our social media throughout the year. Make sure to add your events, gallery exhibitions, or more to our calendar page that is linked to South Coast Today. We want our creatives to excel, and we are here to help. We have plenty of peer-to-peer sessions coming up. Please join us for our next session, Gratitude Art Journal with Allison Wells, and that'll be happening next week, August 13th from 1 to 2 p.m. We have the link should be in the chat. Lastly, the recording of today's session will be available on our YouTube channel within the next week. At New Bedford Creative is how you can find us on YouTube. Have a great day, and thank you for your participation. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
So
Just
Paula,
note, for those who are still here, if you want to join that Allison Wells, it's sold out on Eventbrite, but you can still join by emailing Hendrik, and I posted his email in the chat, and we'll make sure to have it in that session in the Eventbrite as well.
all right, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Have a good one, guys. Thank you.